Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Drux Milan Unboxing. It's that time again. We've got the heavyweights clashing at the O2 Arena on Saturday night in London. I'm talking about, of course, Anthony Joshua, AJ, coming back after his second defeat against Alexander Usyk, and he will be taking on the upset-minded Jermaine Franklin. It takes place on April Fool's Day. Will the fools be the fans who think it's going to be a competitive heavyweight war, or will the fools be Anthony Joshua and his backers that may get upset once again against an underdog? If you're interested to find out, stay tuned. Anthony Joshua has been taking a lot of flack in the media recently. On one hand, I can understand it, the way he behaved after his loss to Alexander Usyk in the Arab Emirates, where he threw the belts and that tirade behind the microphone. That didn't endear him to the public or to me for that matter, but I'll forgive him for that. A professional fighter's life is a life of tension and a life of dedication that few of us normal people can imagine. But there's another train of thought going that's now saying AJ is done, he's rubbish, he's going to get knocked out by Jermaine Franklin on Saturday night at the O2, and it will be the end of Anthony Joshua. And I don't agree with that train of thought. If we take his behavior after the Alexander Usyk fight and put it to one side for now, let's look at who Anthony Joshua has fought. He has fought Vladimir Klitschko in an epic fight of a year encounter. He beat unbeaten at the time Joseph Parker. He knocked out a very dangerous Alexander Povetkin. He outturned boxer and outpointed Andy Ruiz in a rematch, avenging his first defeat, his only defeat at that time. Then he stopped a good quantity of B grade heavyweights that are still pretty good heavyweights, and then he lost his titles for the second time to Alexander Usyk. So he's only been beaten by John Ruiz, where he was stopped in Madison Square Garden. He picked himself up from that, and then he beat Andy Ruiz, in a rematch. Not John Ruiz, that was, of course, the first Puerto Rican heavyweight champion. But he did beat Andy Ruiz in the rematch. He did show that he can adjust. And against Alexander Usyk, he did lose against him twice, so Usyk seems to be the one guy that he can't beat. But let's not forget, Alexander Usyk is an absolutely elite talent. He may be much the smaller man, but he won the World Super Series of Boxing, unified the Cruiserweight division. He's an Olympic gold medalist like AJ, and he is a pound for pound one of the top guys in the world. So there's no shame against losing against a guy like Alexander Usyk. There's a reason why Fury is dancing and not wanting to fight him. I guess I'm just miffed by the heavyweights in general. I'm getting sort of tired about all the shenanigans that we're not seeing Fury and Usyk, at least for now. But Deontay Wilder is no longer fighting Andy Ruiz. AJ is not fighting Tyson Fury, and it is getting a bit old, all this posturing for money and to and fro on social media. But then again, if we go back to Anthony Joshua and Alexander Usyk, it's not like Usyk whitewashed him and scored a shutout points decision over AJ. He won a clear but a very competitive decision in that fight. If you think back about Anthony Joshua against Alexander Usyk, I thought he didn't fight badly in that fight at all. In the 9th round, he looked to be finally getting to Usyk, and it looked to me like he was going to turn the fight in his favor. But then Usyk, like all great fighters do, found extra gear and just took the work rate away from AJ and swiped those last 3 rounds and the fight. And that was all she wrote, as they say. Now, a lot of people think that Anthony Joshua is just going to be defeated. Now, he has got his flaws. We all know Anthony Joshua hasn't got the greatest chin. We all know he can gas if you put him under a lot of pressure, where you make him fight at a pace where he's uncomfortable at. But he's got world-class power. There's no doubt about that. 22 knockouts in his 24 wins against 3 losses. And he is a pretty good boxer. His boxing skills has improved by leaps and bounds. Now, he's maybe not as cagey or as natural a boxer as Tyson Fury, who I think has got more skills than him. Fury hasn't got that great of a chin either, to be frank, and he has got better boxing skills certainly than Deontay Wilder, although Deontay Wilder makes everything right mostly with his big right hand. So now he's facing Jermaine Franklin. Now, who's Jermaine Franklin? Jermaine Franklin has got a record of 21 wins, 14 knockouts, 1 defeat, and he's in his last fight, the American fighter took a big step up in class. Before that, he hasn't really fought any top guys, and he fought top contender Dillian Whyte, who was fresh off a challenge to Tyson Fury, of course. And I think Jermaine Franklin acquitted himself as well as he could have acquitted himself in that fight against Dillian Whyte without winning the fight. He did as well as he could do bar winning the fight. That's the only thing he didn't do. He lost a very competitive majority decision to what I thought was a rather shop-worn looking Dillian Whyte. Now, there's a lot of things to like about Jermaine Franklin. His appearance isn't that of what you would expect from a top athlete. He looks kind of like a Berman's Tavern lookalike. He's sort of a short, somewhat pudgy, stout, squat heavyweight. But he does have very good balance. He's got good ring generalship. He's got a busy, pesky jab. He's got a good punch selection. He puts his punches together well. His defense is pretty decent. He blocks and he parries and he slips punches quite well. And he can take a shot like we saw there against Dillian Whyte. His chin is solid. There is a lot to like about Jermaine Franklin. However, he is not a lightning fast guy. He doesn't have quick feet and he's not as mobile as Alexander Usyk, not nearly as much. He does not have the fight-ending power. He hit Dillian Whyte quite a few times there, and he never really got Whyte's respect the way I saw the fight. He never really had Whyte regrouping. Whyte just kept steadily going forward against Jermaine Franklin for most of the fight. So he never made Dillian Whyte take a back step, make him nervous, had him badly hurt or anything like that. So I think that is a thing about Jermaine Franklin. He is very solid, but unspectacular. Now, I don't think he's got the quick combinations as quick as Andy Ruiz has at mid-range to take Anthony Joshua out. And I don't think he's got that power. Yes, Joshua doesn't have a greatest chin, but he does recover. Look, he got up off a canvas several times against Vladimir Klitschko, and he also got up a couple of times against Andy Ruiz before getting stopped in that first fight. But he doesn't have that one-and-done power over Deontay Wilder. And the other important thing is Jermaine Franklin at 6'2". He's not a small heavyweight. He's big and he's broad, but he's not a tall heavyweight at all. And AJ is 6'9", 6'6", and he's got a substantial reach advantage over Jermaine Franklin, more so than Dillian Whyte had. So I think the combination of Jermaine Franklin's lack of power plus the height and reach advantage of Anthony Joshua is going to play in Anthony Joshua's favour Saturday night at the O2 Arena. I think it's the right kind of opponent for Anthony Joshua at this stage of his career. He doesn't need another huge puncher. He mustn't have a guy that's exceptional, but this guy is solid. So I think he's going to give AJ the rounds, give him a bit of a confidence builder. Now for Jermaine Franklin to win this fight, I don't think he's got that one-and-done power to put Anthony Joshua down enough times to eventually stop him. So that's not going to work for him. But I think he must do, and one thing that I like about Jermaine Franklin, he's got a very good work rate. He's not the absolute busiest heavyweight I've ever seen, but he's a lot busier than the average heavyweight. He doesn't just throw 2 or 3 punches. He fights at a steady clip, and that is something that I really like about Jermaine Franklin, because then already you pull ahead of many of the other heavyweights. So for Jermaine Franklin, he's got to try and not get hit by a big bomb, try and stay away from the right hand. He's done well against Dillian Whyte to avoid those long rights and set a high pace. Keep throwing that jab, keep hitting Anthony Joshua to the body. Just be pesky. Just make Anthony Joshua fight at a high pace that he's not comfortable with. Because we know he can do it for a couple of rounds, but as we saw in the last 3 rounds against Usyk, he can't do it for 12. So I think Jermaine Franklin has got to not get into trouble and just be very busy. Now for Anthony Joshua, He's going to have to do something different. He's got to be very, very busy with his jab. He's got the height and reach, use it. Be busy with his jab to the head, to the body. Pop the body of Jermaine Franklin from the outside and keep that fight on the outside. Keep Jermaine Franklin on the end of his punches, and he might miss the right hand, but he might get the left hook in. And another thing that I noticed Dillian Whyte had some success with was the right uppercut. When Franklin steps forward, throw that right uppercut. Now that I think is the recipe for Anthony Joshua, and I think he will do it. So I've got Anthony Joshua winning this fight. It's a question of whether Jermaine Franklin will last the distance or whether he's going to get knocked out. Now, anything is possible. It depends where Anthony Joshua's head is, but I do think Jermaine Franklin is not the guy who's going to once again upset the Anthony Joshua apple cart. So I think Anthony Joshua is going to win this. I think it's going to be, he's not going to be reckless. I think he's going to do what I've said just now. I think he's going to keep the fight at a distance, and he's going to try and keep Jermaine Franklin from building the forward momentum. Dillian Whyte was too passive. He couldn't quite stop Jermaine Franklin from doing that. But I think Anthony Joshua, with his height and reach, will be able to do that. And I think at some point, maybe around 8 or 9, he's going to catch Jermaine Franklin with that right uppercut coming in. And I do think he's got a bit more finishing power than Dillian Whyte has. So I'm going to go for Anthony Joshua to stop Jermaine Franklin somewhere around 8 or 9. But I think up until then it will be an interesting fight. I just don't think Jermaine Franklin has got the power to get Anthony Joshua out of there. But as our editor at the Ring Magazine always says, that's why they fight the fights. So let's see. Guys, if you've watched this far, please hit that thumbs up button. I will appreciate it. And please punch for subscribe. We're trying to build this channel. It will be greatly appreciated. And until I see you again, remember to keep those hands up.